I hope that you're as enthused about the game as we are. With that, let me introduce to you Kevin Tirico, who is the Washington State head referee, and he's got some thoughts about the game. And then immediately following Kevin, we're going to do a open Q&A session for any questions that you have. If you do have questions that you want to make note of, go ahead and type them into the questions box, and we will do our best to answer all of them. All right, Kev, you can take over.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for coming. It's always really exciting to see the release of a new game, both for First LEGO League or for any first program. I want to start with a disclaimer. Obviously, the game was just released today, and the things I'm going to talk about and any questions I answer are really just my understanding of the game rules as of this presentation. So there's still a good chance that things will change. Every year updates get released that actually change the rules of the game, and then some of the nuances also I learned better by talking with other referees both here and all over the world. You can go on to the next slide. For those of you who don't know me, as Kevin mentioned, I am the head referee for Washington for First LEGO League. I've been doing this for, I believe, the past 8 years, and this will be my 6th year as the state head referee. And I've worked probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 55-ish events. So I really enjoy this. I have an absolute blast with this program. I think it's really cool to see all the things the students come up with. And as Kevin mentioned, you know, there's this progression of programs. I started as a first student in Ohio, and I've been mentoring FRC teams for 9 years, both my old team, 1014 in Ohio, as well as 2 teams in Washington. So if you ever want a chance to flip the tables on the teams that I mentor and that I work with, a good opportunity there to be a FRC judge or referee. So you can go on to the next slide. So my initial thoughts on this game. It's pretty similar to last year from a rules perspective and from a general map layout. For those of you who've been doing this a few years, you know, last year were some huge drastic changes that were really surprising to I think any of us who've been working with the program for a while. But a lot smaller changes this year, and I think all the changes have actually been really helpful, make the game a lot more understandable, and should be a lot kind of fewer difficulties with teams misinterpreting the rules, hopefully. So some of the major similarities, for those who've done this program a couple of years again, we have that smaller mat that isn't quite the full size of a 4x8 sheet of plywood. So you've got that inspection area off to the left side where the mat's going to be pushed all the way to the right and pulled all the way close to you. Can you go back a slide, Kevin? And then the precision tokens for those interruptions, scoring there is going to be very similar, where the teams will start with points on the field, and every time they interrupt or interact with their robot when it's not completely in home, they're going to lose points. And there's a non-linearity to that. The first 2 times they do it, they lose 15 points each time. The second 2 times, it's 10 points, and the last 2 times, it's 5 each, and you can continue to lose beyond that. I also think they made some really, really nice changes. The definitions for home and launch area are, I think, a lot clearer. The launching and cargo rules are simplified, hopefully, for teams. I think they're definitely simplified from a referee's perspective. And there's also no in-match height restrictions, so we don't have to worry about doing those height checks before your launches. One thing I want to highlight to you in your teams is please read the blue text in the rules. There's a lot of clarifications in those blue words that are easy to skip through when you're reading the rules that are important. There's actually a couple of missions that you can de-score or lose points on if you don't follow some specific requirements that are outlined in the blue text. The purple text is highlights and actually doesn't count as official rules. So you can skip the purple but read the blue. Next chart, please, Kevin. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but our inspection areas are back. And the thing about the inspection areas is everything you bring to the match, all your robot, all your attachments need to fit in either the small inspection area or the large inspection area. And this is an area where there is a ceiling. So it's 12 inches up, and so we'll do that prior to the start of the match. We'll do an inspection. You are allowed to use or have your students use their hands to hold everything in so that it can stay in that area, but it does have to all fit. It does not all need to be touching, so you can kind of a puzzle piece, 3D puzzle piece, everything in there. The small area goes from the wall that is at the bottom edge of the mat to the wall that's at the left edge of the mat, and then up to the edge of the launch area, which is that quarter circle that's in the bottom left corner. Teams do get bonus points for fitting in that small inspection area. It's 25 points this year. Instead of being last year, it was 5 points per mission attempted or per mission completed, I believe. This year it's just a set fixed value. It is not a big deal if you don't fit in the small inspection area. You just need to fit in a large inspection area. In the event your equipment does not fit in either, we actually don't score that match, but you can still run it, though. Ultimately it's about the kids having a good time. But generally, we saw most teams last year try and fit in the small inspection area. So for the new coaches trying to figure out kind of where most teams are going to be, that's probably a good place to start. Also, it can kind of keep your students building a little bit smaller, simpler robot, especially for first-year teams. That it can be helpful to work on all the other aspects of the program. We do realize that there's a lot to learn for new coaches and new students. The launch area and home, I think this is where First really did a great job helping out teams this year. The launch area, as I mentioned before, is that inner quarter circle in the bottom left corner of your mat, and it's going to include the line, and there's no height restrictions. So you can stack things up as high as you want in there, and the robot and everything it's about to move has to fit in there before you launch the robot. Home now includes that launch area. So for teams that are returning from last year, that you launched from one area, but in order to touch the robot without losing one of those precision tokens, you actually had to drive the robot all the way off the mat last year into that area that's where the inspection areas are now. This year, the launch area is part of home. So if the robot returns to the launch area and it is completely inside the launch area, teams can touch it without losing those precision tokens. There's a lot of confusion around this last year. First has done a great job, I think, listening to that feedback and making a change that's good for teams, good for referees, good for everyone's experience. Go to the next chart, Kevin. Launch has also changed ever so slightly this year. Now there's going to be 2 checks that the referee, or in many cases your students, are going to do before they press launch. The first check is everything that the robot is about to move fits completely in the launch area. That means things that the robot isn't about to move, say a jig, can extend into home. So you can brace the robot positioning off of the left or west wall as long as the robot isn't moving that jig as part of its program. So again, I think a simplification of the rules that really helps teams compared to last year, where the jigs could not be in both home and the launch area because they were separate. Check number 2 is that the team is not holding anything to prevent it from moving. So things are allowed to move at launch now, but they just have to be completely in that area. So if you had a wheel that was spinning for some reason, you can launch, where last year's rules would prevent that. So probably not something that's going to impact a lot of teams. Generally, it's a good idea to have a pretty set, repeatable launching process, and so having things moving during that time probably makes that complicated. But again, just a simplification that should help teams and help referees. And then cargo definition has been simplified. Cargo is now defined as anything that the robot is capturing, keeping, moving, or releasing. And if the robot is interrupted or touched while it is outside of the launch area, and if the robot has some cargo that it's moving around, say a mission model or an attachment that the team created, if that piece of cargo was with the robot during the most recent launch, the team gets it back. It goes back and they can reset and try again. If the team did not have it on the most recent launch, so if they went out and they tried to pick something up, say the top of the bench, and the robot goes a little bit astray and the students grab the robot, the referee is just going to take that out of play, so it doesn't sit on the field and potentially get in the way of the robot for future missions, future runs. So like you guys, I just got the rules really recently, so I haven't had time to do a super in-depth review, but these were the things that stuck out to me right away. I do think this is going to be a great game, and that the changes that FIRST has made are really benefiting the teams and the volunteers as well. So really excited for this season, and hopefully I'll get a chance to see teams, whether it's in person or over a video stream. I've refed a match over video stream before, so I'd be excited to do that again if that's what it takes in order to continue keeping this program going and provide that really awesome competition experience to students. So I think that's all I had, Kevin. I think there may be just the last slide is questions. So I didn't include it in this presentation, but I do have an email that I monitor. It's FLLheadreferee@firstwa.org. It's usually included in the emails that Jackie sends out with program updates. So if you have game questions, feel free to email me, or better yet, have your students write me an email, and I can answer those questions directly that way. So that's all I have. I think we are now opening the whole thing to questions for anyone, whether that's Aaron for judging, me for some game things, or general program updates and questions for Jackie and Kevin. And we will be using the chat for those, I believe. So I don't think you have the ability to unmute yourself and
yeah, so we have you'll find a question box that you can type a question into, and if you would, we will allow Jackie, wave Jackie. So this is Jackie Grimm. She is actually the first staff person in charge of First Lego League, and thank her for all of the hard work and organizing that are going into this. And she is also going to be our question dispatcher for the day. So Jackie, what kind of questions do we have, and who should answer them?
There's a few for me. There's a few for Kevin. And there's a few for you, Kevin.
Okay.
So I will go ahead and start. Have the details on where the competition goes after qualifiers been determined yet? In other words, do we still have qualifiers, semifinals, and Washington State finals, and split across Eastern and Western Washington? And the answer to that right now is yes. We do have qualifiers and semifinals and state championships, and it will be the same as it was in years past, with an Eastern Washington State Championship and a Western Washington State Championship as it stands right now. That is obviously subject to change due to COVID and remote events and all of that. So that's what we have planned for, but where we go from there, I don't know. The next one is for our head referee, Kevin Tirico. For mission 8, if it is a remote robot run, what are we expected to do for the second table?
This was actually, remember how I mentioned the updates changed understanding of the game? This was actually included in the update today. They released the game today. They also provided updates today. And that says if exactly one cube is sent north over the wall from your model, and you're the only team in the match, you automatically get the 25 share-related points. First, again, I think doing something really helpful for teams. So if you do it and you're the only team in the match, you get the points. So at least for that portion of the mission, there are other points that you can earn there by putting those cubes into this target area.
Okay, next question is also for me. Can we begin working on project this fall virtually through Zoom meetings before then? Yes, you can start working on your project now that the challenge is released. The next question is also for me regarding season shift. Would qualifiers be in January or early Marchish with semis late March and state in April? That's a really good question. Right now, we have qualifiers set to be the end of January with semifinals in February and state in March. That's the tentative schedule, and it is actually on our website on the calendar right now. To be determined, but that is the tentative schedule as it stands right now.
So,
subject to change.
And I'll help a little bit with that because you heard me say something slightly different.
Yep.
We had a great plan 2 weeks ago, and then 2 weeks ago, all of the school districts decided to shut down for the beginning of the year. And so that tentative plan was from 2 weeks ago.
Yes, it was.
We have not, and it isn't just Washington State. First across the around the world is still trying to figure out exactly what it looks like. Every time we try and predict more than a couple months out, we get it wrong. It's been going on since March, and we believe that if Washington State schools end up opening up, we may keep that schedule. But I think realistically, I think we're probably are going to shift it, and you'll have to stay tuned. We promise to give you as much notice as we can. There are there's a lot of churn happening this week in New Hampshire on this exact topic. Everybody realizes this is a big topic, and I expect us to all sort of settle out sometime around the end of August with a clearer plan. We ask for your gracious professionalism because this is changing out from under us as well. But I believe we have enough lead time to make adjustments as we go. We will have a definitive plan in plenty of time for everybody to know what's going to happen. Sorry for the wishy-washiness on that. That's what we got.
So next question, it's kind of a you and I question, Kevin, is first providing any guidelines for in-person meetings with respect to quarantine, distancing, or should we just follow local guidelines? I would say follow local guidelines. Yeah,
just to be super duper clear, we are following local guidelines wherever possible. We are not qualified to be making medical decisions or anything like that. So we will always go with what the school districts and the health departments are telling us to do, and we do not take risks. If they tell us no, we then knows the answer.
Yep.
So you should follow whatever your local districts are doing. Even if you're a home-based team, you might want to pay attention to what is happening in your area. If you're in, unfortunately, Snohomish County is having a steeper uptick at the moment than like King County or some of the rural areas. So the rules are a little bit different even between counties. So there we go. Hopefully that answered your question.
Next one is for Kevin Tirico, our head referee. So the launch area does not have height restrictions. To get the bonus points, the robot with attachments not necessarily be on the robot must be under 12 inches and must fit in the small inspection area. Is that the correct understanding?
That is a correct understanding, but clarification is needed there. To play the match for a score, your robot must fit, the robot and all the equipment you bring to the match must fit in either the small or large inspection area, and each of those inspection areas has a 12-inch ceiling. So all of your stuff needs to package into space that is less than 12 inches, but then you can set it up in the launch area prior to, you know, an individual match or an individual trip outside of the launch area and be over 12 inches during that setup time. So you do need to prove that all of your stuff fits under that 12-inch ceiling at the inspection time, or you won't receive a score.
Kevin, can you give them your FLL email, Kevin Tarico, again?
FLL head referee at firstwa.org. And it's in the bottom of Jackie's. I think it's usually in the bottom of the emails that Jackie sends out.
I will think I have to re-add them, but yes, it should be in the bottom of my coach email blast that I send out.
So Jackie, so Daniel asked a somewhat related question to the last one, but let me address that. Can I take that one?
Yep, go for it.
So the question is, any recommendation on how to conduct team meetings safely during the pandemic? So Daniel, we do not have an official policy on that, but I will address that as a mentor of teams. I'm going to go with what my school district says. I have mostly high school kids doing FTC and FRC, but we also have FLL teams, and we're all going to follow the same rules, which is if the district says that it's okay for us to meet, then we'll meet. Otherwise, we're going to do things on Zoom. So my teams normally have a Zoom call every week, and pretty much everybody in the United States at this point knows how to use Zoom, and it's actually an extremely good tool for you to make progress on. So I think if it was me and you were not able to meet in person to handle the building of the robot, I think I would probably do things virtually to handle your innovation project. You know, do the project, do the research. You could even do a lot of planning and strategizing about what you would want your robot to do. So there is a lot of opportunity for us to do things virtually, even though building of the actual robot itself is not something that I can see working super well doing virtually. If you've got a small team that has got kids that are in the same household, maybe that's fine. It'll just sort of have to depend. But I would try and take advantage of the technologies that everybody's gotten really used to work around this. Hopefully that was an answer for you.
Next question. I see the age cap, this is for me, is 14 in the US and Canada. Is that a change from last year? The age cap for first Lego League in the US has always been 14. Outside of the US, it flexes up to 16, but in the US, it has always been a cap of 14. The next question is, I like the tournament plan. Are there any suggestions on how teams can practice when they can't all get together due to COVID? It's very similar to the last couple. Do you have any other thoughts you want to add, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm facing the same thing with my teams, and it sort of depends on the nature of the kids, and if you had a small subset of your team that are either co-located or the parents all agree they're a pod, whatever that stands for, I think it would be a good conversation to have with the parents to determine what their feeling is on the safety levels, on whether they are okay with a small group working. I don't think I would recommend getting like 10 kids in one room without doing some serious talking with the your parents, and if you are associated with the school, I think um, I think that's all we kind of got at the moment. I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer for you. Yep. Okay.
Okay. Will the tournaments be on one day for all or spread out, much like our tournaments in the past, where we've had them over 2 weekends? Right now, if you go by the schedule that's on our calendar, they are scheduled just like they have been in the past over 2 weekends. That is still the goal. That might change, but that would still be the goal, is to do them over 2 weekends. They will look different, they will be smaller, but hopefully still over the 2 weekends, if that's in-person events. Remote events will be totally different, and we don't yet know what that would look like.
Bill asked an interesting question. Do you see that one? There's two up.
Yes, sorry, I meant to answer that one next. Any ideas on how kids can volunteer since events are remote? That is a very good question that I will have to think on, because I don't know. Because we would love to have kids volunteer. We always love to have kids volunteer. Usually we have them volunteer in person, but with our condensed event sizes, even in person, it doesn't really lend itself well to having a lot of student volunteers this year. So Bill, let me take that back and talk to the rest of the staff and see what they think. And I will figure that out. When will the engineering notebook and game guide be mailed to us? I don't know. That doesn't come from us. That comes directly from FIRST. Are there rules for who should be a referee for the robot runs? A parent from another FLL team, FRC, any other qualification?
So I'll take that one.
Okay.
The exact rules will be issued in not too long. So just so you know, First Tech Challenge and FLL are trying to set up and use the exact same procedures. In the remote model, we are going to rely on everybody's gracious professionalism and the honesty of your team as a group in figuring out which runs you are going to designate as the this is a real match run, and you will honestly report the results of that. But you have to figure out which one is the run before you run it, right? We don't want you cherry picking your best results, because you get to run 3 times. So the reality is that we have to trust that you are going to instill in your students the idea that gracious professionalism includes honesty and integrity, and you guys will adhere to the rules. You consider this like golf, right? If you are getting a golf handicap, at the end of every round, you go into the clubhouse and you enter your score into a computer, and people are expected to do that honestly and fairly. And so I think that this is a good opportunity for your students to learn and learn the integrity of following a promise that they're making. You know, when they submit their score, they're testifying that they did it honestly and by the rules. And I think that that's should be good enough for all of us, right? Exactly who is going to be the referee, and whether you can manage to get others to come in, or whether you need to designate an adult on your team. I think personally, if you can get somebody that's not affiliated with the team, but knows something about knows FLL and knows what to watch for, that's great. Otherwise, you're kind of going to be policing yourself, just like golf. You have to call penalties on yourself. And I think as a group, your team needs to be really honest about that. Hopefully that made sense to you. And Kev, does that sound about right?
Yeah, I think we will certainly have some guidelines and some notes depending on what the plan is this year. And we'll kind of cross that bridge when we get to it. But every year I send out training material to tell referees how to call a game. And maybe the distribution list for that material is just significantly longer than it has been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll certainly come up with a plan that is probably relies on a lot of honesty, as Kevin was talking about, from the teams, but also does everything we can to make sure that we're still being very fair and putting all the teams on a level playing field.
Yeah, we would like everybody to be as consistent with the plan that Kevin Tirico sends out as possible. That is sort of the definition of fairness, is everybody's following the same rules.
But
All
if you
right,
are
next question is for you, Kevin. So when you're done. Sorry.
I was just going to say this will be the one time you're not allowed to complain about the table setup if you're playing on the table. So.
All right, Jackie, I don't think
next.
Kevin can see the questions. Do you want to read it to him?
No, I know. I'm going to read it to him. Does going under the pull-up bar and lifting the robot with it at the end of the match count as 30 points or 45? And do you need to go under it before you lift?
1 second. Okay. So you're talking about mission number 6. So those are separate, and they would be the maximum score for mission 6 would be 45 points. The robot has to pass completely through the pull-up bar's upright frame at any time during the match, and that will score 15 points. So you could do that first thing out of the gate with 2 minutes and 15 seconds left in the match. You can drive over there, drive completely through it, and then at the end of the match, come back, pull yourself up. If the robot is off the mat at the end of the match, that would be those 30 points, getting you to 45. You could also do it right at the end of the match at the same time. You could drive through, and then but you do have to pass completely through. So if you can imagine a very tall robot, might not actually be able to pass under the bar entirely, in which case you wouldn't get those 15 points. So you could drive all the way under the bar so that the robot completely clears it, and then drive back up under it and grab the bar and pull yourself up that way as well. But you do have to pass completely through at some point during the match to get those 15 points for going under it, and then the pull up to hold the robot off the mat at the end for 30. Okay.
All right. Next one's for you, Aaron. Well, you and I. How are teams going to be judged on the full roundedness, especially core values, which is a core of first, in a remote fashion? You have thoughts?
I think we're still figuring out a lot of the details there. I think that is an advantage of sort of the consolidated judging that we're switching to this year. So as I said in the video earlier, it'll be a single panel of judges evaluating core values, robot, and project. So that will help us to evaluate the core values a little more than just sort of the core values activity on its own. But I think we still have to figure out how the stuff that we normally get at the event, how we'll make up for that, basically. I don't know what you have to add, Jackie.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think hopefully first we'll have some good information about what the standards will be for judging core values remotely that they've yet to put out to us. So hopefully we'll be able to share that soon. But yeah, no, I agree with what Aaron said.
And then I guess the other thing is it's really no secret how we judge things. Go look at the rubrics. A lot of core values are based on what teams do before they ever get to the event. So do those things.
Next question, with a shift in the schedule to be later, do you expect a later cutoff date for registering? With schools out, difficult to get a team started? Yes, we do expect registration to stay open longer for initial team registration, and I don't expect actual event registration to take place until probably close to mid to late December. Kevin, this is a good one for you. Ross, how will the robot game video be shared? Actually, both Kevins and me.
Well, okay, so the robot game video, as in the one that was just shown, I believe.
I don't know if it's the one that is shown or if it's the robot game video that they're uploading for remote events, or if it's the live stream robot game video.
Oh, that's a great question. I'm gonna. So Anil, I think we need a little clarification from you about which video you mean. That's a good point. So we're gonna duck your question for a sec. Can you let us know which robot game video? If you're talking about the video that we just showed, this whole presentation is being recorded. We'll pop that up online, and I think actually the game video in terms of the mission stuff, I think is already on YouTube.
That's correct. It was uploaded to the First Inspires resource library.
Oh, for judging. He just responded. So uploading the robot game video for judging.
I'm going to assume judging is refereeing, not judging, because there's a separate judging session that is going to be, I assume, some type of interactive and not completely recorded. Like it'll be some room for judges to interact with the teams. I have no plan on how we will, like that is well above my pay grade. Kevin Ross might know the answer to this. But
there are a number of aspects to how it's called the hub system for
the remote event hub.
FLL and FTC, and it is still being worked on. We are finding out the most of the details about it towards the end of this month. So hang tight. We will share all pertinent details with you as soon as we know.
Yep. Is it possible to get more than one challenge set so kids can work in small groups? I wish it was. I have not heard that FIRST is allowing teams to buy additional challenge sets. Multiple coaches have asked me this so far. If I hear anything about teams' ability to purchase additional challenge sets from FIRST, I will put it out in an email and post it on the Facebook group as soon as I hear something. But as it stands right now, they're not allowing teams to purchase additional challenge sets. Aaron, with the revised 30-minute judging session, the team that is being judged is expected to have all of its members join the session online and allow for the judges to question them? That would be my understanding.
That's my expectation.
That's the plan.
Yep. I can already see this kind of Q&A being super useful. Do we have plans to do this again on a recurring basis? I would love to do this again on a recurring basis. I would love to do this again once a month, you know, if possible, especially with, you know, our delayed start time with events and the amount of questions that we have. I think it would be great to do. The Innovation Challenge was announced the Innovation Challenge, the project part was announced. It is in the video. I have read several things online this year. The actual project portion is pretty vague this year.
Yeah, you'll find it, the best description I've heard of it, actually, even by reading it, turned out to be in the video where they talked about. So go find the release video that we just ended up watching, the full one, and they talk. I thought they described it pretty well, what they're looking for the innovation thing. So I won't try and repeat it because they worded it really well. I know that you joined a little bit late. If you watched that video, it was a good description.
How will the judges judge the robot run remotely? That's what we're still trying to figure out. So stay tuned for that. I will email you guys and let you know where the video is posted. It will most likely be posted on our website in the FLL portion. Tournament fees. What are the tournament fees this year? If the tournaments go remote, will there still be a fee? Kevin?
Yes. So your tournament fees actually go to cover the cost of the staff that is actually running the program. And so, yes, we will still have a tournament fee for the year.
Since most teams will be collaborating remotely as the season starts, it would be beneficial for team members to have their own EV3 kits. Do you know of any remote learning COVID discounts for groups to acquire multiple base kits? I have not heard of anything. Have you, Kevin?
I have not. Mr. Tirico, have you heard anything?
I have not. The only thing I would say is, so Spike Prime is out now and is an allowable robot controller this year. I didn't see any super good, like I didn't see any discounts associated with that either, but you may actually want to check like secondhand markets like eBay or Facebook Marketplace or Amazon, maybe people selling used that are upgrading their kits and may have some EV3s that they're putting in the market. So that would be the only thought I have there. But I have not seen any discounts for Lego competition robotic stuff.
The remote runs have to be a live one for remote judging, I would think. I'm concerned with the obvious technical challenges of sharing video quality and the bandwidth issues, which could result in a skewed judgment. Any thoughts on this?
We've been having some awfully good luck with Zoom, and we've had awfully good luck with GoToMeeting. We would never hold bad video as a detriment to your team, and if the video was that bad, we would figure out a way to get either get you a better interview process. So literally every student in the state of Washington over the age of second grade has been using Zoom, and it's actually been pretty good. So I'm hoping that all should work out. It's unclear to me whether we would be using any necessarily high def details of a robot running on a table to do much at all with the judging. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. Yeah. So I guess I'm not. I understand your question, and I'm not as concerned about that. Like I said, if there's a technical problem that is not related to your students, we always give students the benefit of the doubt, and we will come up with a solution.
Is it safe to say the qualifiers will not be any earlier than the last 2 weekends in January? So right now, and I just looked it up while Kevin was talking, there are 5 weekends in January. And right now, COVID permitting, they are scheduled for the 16th and 17th and the 30th and 31st, which is the 3rd and 5th weekends in January. So at this, go ahead. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I thought we missed one. Oh, Kevin Tirico, would you type your email address in the chat window? Oh, you did? Is it in chat?
Oh, I typed it to her. I can type it in the chat.
Okay.
Or Kevin can type it in the chat.
Right.
So at this point, we do not know if the event would be all fully remote or in person, correct?
Kevin and Jackie, I don't have an option in chat to send to everyone.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I can send it to you guys, but it's not very helpful.
You keep going, Jackie. I'll take care of it.
No matter what, judging will be remote.
Yes.
The The question is whether the robot game is remote or in person.
Yes, judging will be remote no matter what, and we are unsure if the robot game will be remote or in person. We have another question, or the same question repeated, about the pull-up bar, which I think you already answered, Kevin.
Yep.
Do we have to send one continuous video for the robot game, including all 3 runs? We don't know the answer to that yet. Is there a forum for us? Go ahead.
Regarding like refereeing and video of your own field and those types of things, we really just don't know. So I know that is can be a little unnerving. It's certainly something that we will do our best to come up with a solution, and there will be opportunities, I think, in the future for feedback. We generally have had the past, I think, almost every year since I became head referee, we have had a separate like robot game call that didn't talk much about judging. It was very specific to the game, and we will probably do, I assume we're going to do that again this year. So there will be lots of opportunities to talk about that. But at this point, because that is the portion of the program that we are unsure if it will be in person or entirely virtual, we still have some work to do to figure that out. So I don't think we're going to be able to give you any better answers on that until we hear a little bit more from FIRST and learn a little bit more about what's happening in the state.
Is there a forum for us teams to communicate and discuss and socialize? We have our FLL Facebook group that teams are welcome to join. I will send the link out in my next communication again for new teams. It's for registered coaches and mentors to talk. We don't have anything for students and teams to kind of get on and talk. That's definitely something I will take back away from this and talk to the staff about and see if we want to put something together that would be similar. What do the kids, what should they prepare for their judging session? Posters, binders, etc. Aaron?
I don't think that there's anything that's mandatory. Obviously, binders are going to be a little hard to share at this point. We don't have a lot more information from FIRST, whether there will be an opportunity to share virtual materials.
I've actually been in on that discussion at FIRST, so I'll supplement Aaron's answer with for this year. Since you have a little extra time, what a great year for your students to learn how to do some electronic arts and graphics. I have a feeling that sending either pictures or managing to do these sorts of graphics in the software so you can create it like a PDF file or something that's electronically shareable is a very wise move, because we can't accept hard copies of things. So I think your posters, if they want to do them by hand and take a good quality picture of it and send it to us, that's great. But I think all of those materials that they would normally have as a pit display would be awesomely done electronically so that we can see them. First Tech Challenge is doing the exact same thing. Is all of the things that would be normally handed in on paper are all going to be electronic this year.
Good to know. Thanks, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
So teams run their own matches and submit scores, not videos or runs over Zoom. We don't know yet. We don't know what that's going to look like yet.
Nope. We do know that they are going to submit their own scores, and Jackie's going to find out.
See, that's different than what I heard. So.
Oh, okay. We'll let you know after August 19th.
Yep. For Kevin Tirico, would you be able or willing to share the referee training material to everyone?
The referee training material is created by yours truly and has certainly not been produced for this year yet. Generally, both the material that is shared with me from the head referees for head referee training, those are the global head referees, as well as the state referees, we've made the decision not to share because it generally includes information on how to rule on the very edge cases, the loopholes that are left in the first rules, and that is to ensure consistency across as many events as possible, but it is generally not to be shared. We were told not to share it with teams, partially because we don't want to give the answer key away. We want to leave the opportunity for those students to have those discoveries and figure out creative and innovative ways to solve the game challenges. If we get to a situation where you are having to rule on things entirely on your own, I will certainly produce something that can be shared with teams that kind of covers that line and tells teams how to rule on specific situations. Every year there's 1 or 2 missions that there's a kind of a unique way of solving that becomes more and more prevalent as the season goes along. And so maybe we're giving that that hint to coaches and teams or coaches much earlier in the season, but that's certainly something that we will do if necessary. But I won't be sharing that if we end up with a in-person robot judging session, or sorry, robot refereed score session. I try to use different verbs for the judging that happens in the judging rooms with the judges who go up through Aaron versus the matches that happen on the fields with the referees.
Do the rules vary from state to state? No, they don't.
The rules do not vary from state to state, or they do not intentionally vary from state to state, as Kevin talked about in his intro video. First, at all levels is a volunteer organization, and I do my absolute best to provide training materials to all the referees in the state or across the state of Washington, and make sure those are consistent with the rules that are being applied globally. But I cannot guarantee that every event around the world that referees are reading those same rules that are provided by the global head referees. But there's no intention of differences.
And then the off the table, all of the rules and procedures for running events, both in person and remotely, especially remotely, we are trying very hard to make sure that that's uniform across the country, so everybody has a shared experience.
Kevin Tarico, what moves count as a robot dance?
The blue text below M07 robot dance. Any silly or skilled repetitive action counts as dancing. Do something fun.
What happens if a robot breaks the pull-up bar?
If the robot breaks the pull-up bar, it probably will not score points for hanging on the pull-up bar. If it breaks, it's kind of one of those, like, have you seen those videos of the trucks that are too tall to fit under the bridges where they drive in and the top gets pulled off? If you do that to the pull-up bar, you aren't going to get points for going under it. But if you drive under it at some point in the match and then later break the pull-up bar, you should still receive the points for passing under.
There's a comment about classes and meetings over Zoom being difficult. We understand that judging over Zoom or any meeting platform, judges are not expecting your team to come in perfect and polished and having this rehearsed. And we understand that this is going to be different this year and the technology is different. And you might have 9 cameras for your 9 different kids and they're all in their different windows, and we're not going to hold that against them.
On the other hand, being a well-prepared team,
Does help.
Yeah, if it was my team, I would rehearse this a number of
Agreed.
times and get it all worked out. And it's a great team project. And
Agreed.
Their ability to hold it together during a presentation like this is actually kind of what part of the core values of working together as a team to solve a problem. And so if we're going to go glass half full, this is a great opportunity for your kids to learn how to work together as a team.
But we know this is different.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, just as we are asking for gracious professionalism from all of you, we will certainly be doing our best to have our volunteers display that across all the programs. Certainly challenging times for everyone, and for things entirely outside of the program as well. So we'll do our best to try and make this an enjoyable and positive experience for all of these students, and for you as coaches and mentors as well.
Aaron, the new rubrics have numbers for beginning and exceeds, etc. Will these be totaled for a more quantitative score?
Not really.
Good enough. Yeah. No, we don't think so.
Yeah, my expectation at this point, based on what I've been told by FIRST, is that judges will compare teams more holistically rather than, some sort of formula.
I do not know when the Game Changers kits will be shipped. That comes directly from Lego Education. Should we expect any guidelines on sanitizing the Legos, robot models, attachments, etc.? Have you heard anything from FIRST about that, Kevin? Because I have not.
No, we have discussed a few things. That we will have guidelines on how to clean tables for in-person events and such. I think for your own stuff, I would do, if stuff's getting handled a lot, I would certainly find a spray cleaner that you could nail them with every now and then, just to be safe. And generally make sure people are washing their hands and observing any mask rules that are in effect at the time. And but I don't think that they're going to have explicit instructions.
No, I don't expect we're going to get anything, but we will certainly have and publish whatever our cleaning procedure is going to be if we go to in-person robot competition, so that teams can understand. And I hope that if we get there and there are teams that are not comfortable with whatever we are able to do, that there's a virtual option as well. But certainly cannot guarantee anything. Those decisions will probably be made at a much higher level than the people in this room.
Okay, getting sort of down to the end. We've got about a dozen left. What programming languages will be allowed for the robot? As far as I'm aware, all of the same programming languages from last year are still allowed, which is pretty much anything that can run your robot autonomously.
Does that sound right, Kev? Oh, yeah.
Yep, I don't think there are any restrictions.
Number of teams moving forward for semis and state. That solely depends on how many teams we have register. Do you know of any good online simulations, free is best, for EV3 Spike Prime that team members can access for coding practice or collaboration while we cannot meet in person?
I know.
There actually, so this is a place, someone posted something about this on the FLL coaches Facebook page. I remember seeing it. I'd have to dig through it to look. So that there is something. I do not know if it was free or not. And I do not know if it included Spike Prime.
Just to clarify, we are shifting the qualifier or the event season to start in January as of right now. It will not start any earlier than January, but you are able to work on your project, robot, whatever you're allowed to do with social distancing and whatever the guidelines are for your area starting right now.
Mhm.
We are always required to share our solution with our community. Are there any community guideline or sharing guidelines restrictions? That's a good question. I have not heard that they are taking out the sharing with your community. I think it would depend on who you're sharing with and how they are willing to meet with you.
So if you are associated with a school, different districts have different rules about students posting things on the internet. So, I mean, the obvious answer is, oh, well, we'll put it on a website or something like that. Please do check with your school, especially elementary and middle school levels, to find out what restrictions are there, because there are actually laws on the books, and I do not know the details of those, but I would definitely check with your school to find out what the restrictions are in terms of putting things online. I know that they get kind of restrictive on posting student pictures online for people under 13. So the big, I'm waving a flag there. Don't know the details. I'm going to wave a flag there and say, if you've got, if you're doing stuff putting students' information online, you should check with the school. I think other interesting ideas, if you wanted my take on it, would be, hey, guess what? Not only do school kids know how to use Zoom, but it turns out that you could do your own potential Zoom meeting, again, checking with the school to find out about that. But maybe you could do something virtual and communicate your project with others. Don't know what the details of that might look like, but that is certainly an option that if I was judging, I would go, oh, good job, yay, so.
Since all judging is online, if a tournament is in person and smaller, that implies the tournaments would be half a day at most, right? That is correct. That is what we are leaning towards, is having 2 tournaments run the same day. So you would have a morning session, and then we would clean and sanitize everything, and then we would have an afternoon session if we are allowed to meet in person. Are the robot game building instructions published? Yes, they should be online. How can a team do M8 online if they have 1 table?
Somebody can catch the block.
Yep. The only thing I would say is if you're playing entirely by yourself, you only need to hit 1 over. But you might need to hit a different one depending on if you are in an in-person competition and playing across from another team. So it might be good to have a program for each potential block. But if you are playing entirely, if it's going to be entirely virtual, then you just need to hit 1 over and have somebody catch it and reset it after the match.
Can you give an example of an exceeds grading for a project?
I mean, so the rubrics have different sections, right? Project has five sections: identify, design, create, iterate, communicate. So you wouldn't necessarily have like a project that exceeds as a whole so much as in one specific area. But what FIRST is kind of trying to do this year is force you as teams and you as students to figure out, find ways to push beyond what's in beginning, developing, accomplished to really go above and beyond and come up with something that exceeds.
In support of Aaron, it'd be very difficult for us to give you an example of that sort of thing. That's a super broad, open-ended question that we don't know the answer to exactly. It's one of those, when you're judging, you sort of, you know it when you see it sort of things. We couldn't give you a checklist of this. If you did this exactly, you're going to get an exceed. It doesn't work that way.
I think the only thing that I would add there is every year there's the innovation challenge, like the teams that advance to the Global Innovation Challenge. I might have screwed up the name there.
Global Innovation Award.
Global Innovation Award. I believe the results of that are posted online, probably from years past. If you want to see what the best teams in the world do for projects, they certainly have exceeded expectations. So that's probably not the bar to get exceeds, but it is certainly an example of projects that would exceed across the board.
All right, I think robot game via Zoom. What about connection issues? Right now, we don't know how we're going to do robot game, so.
I believe the intent of the robot game portion of it is that you may upload a video of your accomplishments, but I don't think there's an expectation that somebody is going to watch your video live. So give us a month, we'll have a better explanation for you. But I don't think you need to worry about that too much at this point. We'll get all that worked out for you. It is a good question, and we don't have a satisfying answer for you right now.
And I think we're good.
All right. Kevin, Aaron, and Jackie, thank you so much for helping to put all of this together. Very much appreciate it. We are going to upload this entire 90-minute video online onto YouTube. And if other teammates would like to watch and kind of hone in on the and listen in on the Q&A, they're welcome to do so. Sounds like Jackie may be planning on doing something again in maybe a month or so, and we look forward to that. And once again, on behalf of all of FIRST, thank you for being part of FIRST. And on behalf of FIRST Washington, we appreciate your patience and your gracious professionalism. We are in completely uncharted waters with doing remote events and making major modifications to what we've been doing for the past 18 years. We had 18 very, very successful years, and then we have COVID and murder hornets and all sorts of cool stuff happening. So your gracious professionalism in watching us work our way through these issues with you is greatly appreciated. I hope you realize that we all take this very, very seriously. We take your questions very seriously, and we are going to do our best to make sure that your students have a successful season. So with that, thank you all, and we wish you all a very good night.
Thank you.
And